I'm Turyatunga Rebecca Juna, and today we as women gather to speak about and reflect about the decision by the World Bank on not financing or halting financing to the public financing by the World Bank and in the next financial year of the budget. And today, as we see it, we also have to have a background of what the World Bank is, what it does, what it's comprised of. So the World Bank was formed in 1944 and it is comprised of 189 members, with the US, the United States of America, being the biggest shareholder. So before you become a member of the World Bank, you first become a member of the IMF and then shift to the World Bank under the IBRD agreements. And Uganda in 1963 became a member of the World Bank. So it has been able to borrow and has been having a friendly relationship with the World Bank. Upon the passing of the anti-homosexuality bill, the World Bank decided, okay, we will not be financing the next financial year your budget. You will not be able to borrow from us. So today we sit and ask ourselves, where do we borrow from? How does this impact us? And why is it that most of the other worlds that have said no to anti-homosexuality have not been reprimanded? Why is it Uganda that is being reprimanded? And today I'm joined by Helen Sakisa. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Helen is the program leads at Dwona initiative. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, and Winfred Mugambwa, the executive director, writes for Her Uganda.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show. I'll start with you, Helena. Sorry. What's the impact of the decision of the World Bank on trade?
First, I would like to say that the World Bank had a policy brief that was having finances, like, is it approximately shilling 217 trillion dollars, trillions for women in entrepreneurship. So I do not know what befalls those women when the funding is cut off, and also due to the fact that this funding is going to be cut off, also the women or the livelihoods of the normal Ugandan is going to be stepped on by the high taxation. So we don't know what really befalls, but the entrepreneurship and the trade in the pipeline of it for the sustainable development, I do not see it go ahead. If we, or as the government, comes up and sees the way forward.
Okay, but Helena, don't we have somewhere else to borrow? Can we just say that it's only the World Bank that we can depend on?
No, I think it is also very important for the government to look into the multinational companies and also have a policy that both the government and these multinational companies have a corporate social responsibility policy that, of course, these multinational companies should also look into the social and environmental and economic benefits of the normal Ugandan while operating in Uganda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Helena. And I'll come to you, Winfred. Where can we go to borrow? Because the World Bank has said we won't be able to borrow from it. So as they are getting to decide about us, where can we go to borrow?
Thank you so much. World Bank's decision to stop funding our projects. First of all, the reason they are giving, before I answer that, before I even look at the statement from the president, the statement reaction from the different people, I first I want us to ask ourselves, okay, the World Bank is telling us about their values. Did Uganda enter into this relationship knowing about the values of the World Bank? And however much we are like saying World Bank is doing wrong on this, does Uganda, just taking an example, Bank of Uganda have values they follow? Or around banks in Uganda, do they have values they follow when they are giving out their loans? So the discussion has to start from there. I believe Uganda went into relationship when there is no values of inclusion and non-discriminatory, values of the World Bank. To them, what did it mean?
Yeah.
And as you asked about borrowing, before I think about say that we should run to this country to borrow, we need to put in mind that these countries they're interconnected. They have relationships. Yes, before we think about running to anywhere else to borrow, we have to look at, is borrowing the solution? Are we going to keep our country in debts forever? So far, the money borrowed, what has it done?
Yeah.
Yes, before we even look at running to borrow, Uganda is a rich country. We have very many resources. Yes, however much we are poor monetarily. We are poor, we need the money. But again, even the resources we have that can bring us the money, before even the decision of the World Bank, what have we gained from the resources? We have borrowed and borrowed. But again, the money, the debts, who have gained more from these debts?
Yep.
I'm a woman, and women have really, when you look at now and then, we can see that these debts, these projects from the World Bank have impacted so much the lives of women and very many marginalized groups, the youth, the disabled. There is a great impact. But even before looking there, the government of Uganda, if we sat and if they sat and evaluated themselves before even running, because we shall still be in the vicious cycle of poverty, the vicious cycle of debts, if we are not looking at the problem within. Yes. So to me, I can't first look at, I don't want to answer the answer of running to borrow. I want us to first run and clean the house, clean our problem. We have many you've seen money eaten for such projects. Let's start, before even running to borrow, let's start to recover. First of all, recovering from the people who have stolen the money, because they have even assets. Let's start by even, the government, the president needs to start firing even those people around him who are eating that money. I want him to first clean the house before looking at borrowing somewhere else.
So that we mobilize resources internally.
Yeah. And even as he sits, he told us, you people, by the president, I loved his speech, was like, in 2025, our oil will be giving us money. Now, in these 2 years, we have to grow the mass of suffering. That is what he was trying to tell us. And then he's telling us to reduce the budget. Yes, he already has a strategy.
Yeah.
Yes, he already. I support him when he says we don't have to go and borrow. I also support that. But as he looks at cutting the budget, we need also to open our eyes and say, where are they going to cut? And we avoid the issue of, we love Ugandans, we hate strategic thinking. We hate deep thinking. We love bandwagon thinking. If someone has come out and has a louder voice and they're saying us, because I think many of us didn't deeply think about the effects that will come from the anti-homosexuality bill. And we are already facing it even before, when the World Bank came out.
But Winfred, the Arab world decided, no, we don't want these things of LGBTQ. Why is it that for us, Uganda, we are being punished?
I can't call it a punishment.
Yes.
That is why I said, I need the president to come out and tell us that, do you know, you people, by the time, let me give you an example. When two people enter into marriage, you get, or in any relationship or business relationship, I believe they get to understand each other. They get to understand each one's values. I need the president to come out and tell us, did they know about the values of the World Bank?
But Winfred, you get to see that even the Arab world, they are members of the World Bank.
I am going to answer that. I am coming to that. So when the government of Uganda comes out to tell us whether they knew about this, you get, and then you're telling me even Arab countries are members to the World Bank, and they even get money from there. So what is different when they're signing for those loans? You get it?
Yes.
Now I don't know the answer. I'll give wrong information.
Yes, the trade
which means that the government has been trading us. We have been a commodity. Yes. They're hiding something from us.
Yes.
Why are they coming out to put more pressure? I'm not saying that. I don't allow what the statement you're using. Me, I'm saying that the government should first tell us, did the World Bank wake up just because of and create those values? Did they? Or they knew about them before? What is inside those contracts they sign? Me as a citizen, I don't know. You get it? And I'm just here asking myself, really? Did World Bank just work? And that question, so we need also to understand what are those Arab countries doing different that our governments are not doing. What are our government, what is Ugandan government compromising? What have they been compromising? If it's really there. Was it love for money that they just ran?
Or is it bullying from the Western world?
You, as you're calling it, or is it bullying? But personally, why I can't call it bullying is they are talking about their values, as we are also talking about
our sovereignty.
Yes, you get it. So everyone is saying we are staying with what we stand for. So Tumia wouldn't call it bullying because, like the president said, we are a rich country. We can even develop. So let's maybe try out what the president is telling us. Keep our values as they keep and their values, and we.
Because if they decide that we are not giving you our money, we also tell them we are not giving you our raw materials.
That is not the deal. Then
Yes, if they are saying we are not giving you, we are not lending to you at friendly rates, we also get our minerals and say, okay, and our raw materials, we are going to trade with somebody else.
But you remember, do you know that with the discussion that have been going on around the oil, maybe even all of it might be already taken. So you'll be like, you take your money as we keep. We might be yet we had already traded everything.
Skin. We still have things. Africa is a rich nation.
True.
If you don't give us your money, we won't give you our raw materials. We have something you need also.
Yes.
It's not like they don't need us.
We do have what they need, but our question is, by 2022, by end of 2022, what percentage do we still own? Yeah? That is now the question. For now, as we make that decision, by the end of 2022, what percentage do we still hold as a country of our own riches?
Yeah, that's a question. And I think it is blur for every citizen because
the president will make sure that we keep the.
No, you see, actually, you see, it's for a very long time. You see that these resources come up when our white has discovered them. We do not have even the technologies, anyways, to discover that there is gold here, there is what here, there is this here, there is oil here. You just hear,
Whether Uganda is killed. So now that the president has said we cut our expenditure, this World Bank is squeezing the balls of Uganda. Where do we cut? Helena.
Okay, first, I would really think it's also, okay, like before suggesting where we cut, I would also think that the government should also prioritize now. It is time for us to prioritize and see what is for Ugandans and what is against Ugandans.
Yeah.
So first, I feel the number of the MPs is too much because, they're given lots of money and some of them even do not do what is supposed to be done with that money. Yes, sometimes, when people complain, they say there are something that MPs are supposed to do and there are some things that they are not supposed to do. But now it is high time that the government sees which number of MPs should we have, members of parliament should we have, and also how much are we allocating to their facilitation. Because you are allocating this amount of money for their facilitation, but the health center too that helps women to deliver is in a situation of quagmire. You are facilitating these MPs to have good cars, V8, but you see that the education in rural areas, it's not good. The children are going to school with sitting in a classroom that is leaking. It's raining, but it is leaking.
Sitting on bricks.
Sitting on bricks. And is that a picture that we should paint out, that we have been getting really like funds from the World Bank? Sincerely? This is a very big question to really point to the government, that we should not just cry and lament, the World Bank has stopped its funding from us. But we should also look into we as being the problem, because the funds have been coming, but have they really been doing what they're supposed to be
Yeah.
You hear the funds have come, oh, this member of parliament, oh, this minister has embezzled these funds, and there's nothing actually done to them. So it's high time we really prioritize and look into how we can cut the unnecessary, I call them unnecessary, yes. So that we
Winfred, where do we cut?
Our motto is for God and my country, right? As the president was suggesting that now we are going to cut our bill because he leads a country which has a motto for God and my country. He needs to first speak to himself for God and my country, and it starts from him. From the State House. Yes, he needs to look into, okay, me as the president, I want to be the example. Before I even go to point to the parliament, to the ministers, let me set the example. By the time I reach to my ministers, they will be like, if the big man, if our president, I love my president so much, if our president could touch his own expenditures, what about us? So to me, I would say he needs to start from his own house, cleaning from his own house, because we've also heard of the expenditures in State House. We know of these, the advisors he has. And some you even ask yourself, especially, like, what exactly does this person advise about? You get? But they are driving big cars, they have guards around them. So we need to start from the State House. Then the example will flow like that.
To the ministers.
But we start from the what? He, not we, because I'm just a citizen.
Yeah.
Because he even brought this suggestion, good suggestion, he needs to start from the top, and we learn, and then then again, as we look at cutting the budget, we need also to evaluate and see the projects that have been funded by the funds that came from the World Bank. Yes, through evaluating the projects, we need to see, even if we are to cut, remember they're not going to be affected now, but by the next financial year, what impact have we got from these projects? Income wise, how has it contributed to the growth, economic growth of the country? And what revenue are we even getting from those projects? Yes, are we getting the money from this project and still building the project like they remain sustainable, or are we putting into our own stomachs? Yes. So as we implement this project within this period, when we have to think about whether to give up, whether the government has to think about, am I giving up? They also need to now be critical and evaluate, strategically evaluate the success or this project, because they are good project. You can look at the project of Grow for Women. Yes, it is really a good project, because it speaks from, before speaking to, it speaks from where the gap was, the gender gap was. So it is bridging a lot of many things. So I think we need, even as citizens of Uganda, we need to look at, now we are into this chaos. I'll call it chaos, because each side is contributing something. How did we get there?
Yeah, how did
we get there? To me, I feel, and mostly from our side, we are enjoying this game. The government is enjoying this game. The ministers are enjoying. Why? By the time they introduced AHA, citizens had opened their eyes on accountability. Citizens were so open, they needed government to account. They needed officials to account for many things. We had seen how discussions of corruption were high in parliament. But now, to me, why I feel these people are now clapping that we have gotten a scapegoat, we will tell the citizen, our World Bank is taking money, our Western countries are now bullying us. And now for them, how are we going now to ask for accountability when we also know, when they've blinded our eyes with there's no money now. You know, Western countries have even refusing us to travel. You know, so we are not looking beyond outside the box. This AHA thing is helping the corrupt officials now play their games, not be accountable, or even pay the debts. We are not having, I remember very many ministers that had been put in prison. But right now, where is that discussion?
For the iron sheet.
Yeah.
For the iron sheet. Where are the discussion we are having around NSSF? Where are the discussion we are having around the goats?
What happened to the goats?
You know? So Ugandans, we don't need to be fooled. This thing is covering up. Next thing the government is going now, they have told us, we need now to cut our budget. We need now, they are not telling us we need now to recover our money which was stolen by the ministers. They are not telling us that we need now to tighten. Before even cutting that, we need to recover our money, you know.
President, ministers.
You know, so to me, this the anti-homosexuality bill discussion, I rarely, when I get a discussion to talk about it, I want to discuss it deeper. When it came in place, yes, the act is there, it's already signed, but are the gays the problem of the country? Yes? Is it the major problem? And when the World Bank says, for us, we are looking at discrimination, we are looking at our values of inclusion and non-discrimination. They're only picking out one of the groups. Let Uganda come up with a law discriminating disabled persons. And we see whether, just right now, let's try and test the Western countries. We come up with a law, yes, that is not inclusive, or even it's discriminating youth, or discriminating disabled persons. And we take away some of the project and we don't stop including them. And we see whether the Western countries will stay quiet. There I will say that Western countries are promoting homosexuality. But before we do that, and we have touched one of the groups, to them they think in their policy, it is one of the groups we are looking at, inclusion. Yes? And they come out and speak. Let's test them by introducing another law. Yes, discriminating disabled persons, discriminating youth, discriminating women, discriminating refugees. Because we have money we are getting on behalf of refugees. So when we have those laws and we see these Western countries keeping quiet, I will say that these people truly, what they were telling us, they were promoting homosexuality.
But Winfred, also what I want to ask is that the Western world, the World Bank, have known for a very long time that there have been these corruption things. Haven't they been in bed with government? They have. What changed right now? Because during Kadaga's time, it was the same thing. This has been on. What changed right now that the World Bank has said, okay, we are done? And these geopolitical fights and we are hiding behind these laws to fight geopolitical fights.
So you've asked about corruption. Yes, World Bank has been seeing corruption. And I think they've funded projects around accountability. They've funded very many human rights defenders projects to hold people accountable. Yes? But again, I want Ugandan government, like how I've said, I want Ugandan government, because now when you look at the anti-homosexuality bill, you will see that there are clauses or content which are already in other laws. Yes, in Uganda. And for corruption, which law has Uganda come up with that contradicts with the World Bank to hold funding because of corruption? Because to them they're like, you've signed, our country signed signed to many laws that talk about discrimination and inclusion. They signed, and again around corruption. Which law? Because now we are speaking about, for them they came out in line with the law. We are not. I don't think they are saying that if someone has raped the other fellow person, you don't have to deal with them.
I think they are standing on the pillar of reducing poverty within all different groups of people. Yeah.
And they're like, you've put in a law in place that doesn't speak to our values.
Yeah.
So I believe also Uganda, when they put there a law, but again now around corruption, which law is there? I want us to look at which law is there. We are saying Western countries haven't come out to speak to corruption, yet they are funding very many projects in the country. They are funding very many organizations in the country that are really holding the what? That are really holding the government accountable. And we have seen
still they are funding organizations to hold the government accountable. But they have known that we have had corruption. We've been members of the World Bank since, I say, 1963. To be specific, in September.
And that is the question I'm asking. What has Uganda done? Like how they stood up when they talked about, when they said people are recruiting people, young boys in homosexuality, and they come up with the law. What has Uganda done that can bring also the World Bank up? What has Uganda done? What has the government done to the corrupt officials?
Well, the issue of corruption, you heard what the IGG said about the issue of corruption in this country. But for me,
you can repeat it. What did he say? Remind us.
Okay. I don't want to get in problems with her. But here is the thing, is that they've known from the time we operated with them as the World Bank that there have been these issues.
Corruption issues.
They've never come and said, okay, we've stopped funding you for corruption. Because corruption is against the pillar they stand on of reducing poverty. You get it? Corruption is against the pillar of reducing poverty, because when you take the money, the people are not able to get the services. Still, they did not even put and say, guys, no, first deal with your corruption. They walked the journey with us, and then voila, that anti-homosexuality bill is when they say, well, this is against the pillar of reducing poverty in all groups. That's when we say, is the Western world bullying the developing world? And to be a member of the World Bank, you first have to be a member of the IMF. And I'm going to pose this question to you. Is the IMF keeping developing countries in economic injustice? Helena.
I think it is, because you see that Uganda has been in the IMF for a very long time, but surprisingly, you see it still struggling with poverty. You see it is still struggling with unsustainability. It is still struggling with underdevelopment issues. So I do not think that Uganda, even when it has been in the IMF, it has achieved what it's supposed to achieve. Why? Because in the first time, of course, these loans are given to us, but with high interests. And what are the high interests implicating with the negatively implicating with the common Ugandan? Of course, high taxes. And what are high taxes still implicating on the common Ugandan? Like, not a good livelihood. So I do not think Uganda is yet to develop, even if the IMF still does, or the World Bank does not support it. So this still poses a question to us. As Ugandans, we have to be patriotic. Yes, we have to be patriotic. It is high time we become patriotic of our country, of our leadership, our, of the services we say we are rendering, of the resources we say we have been part of the IMF. We have gotten these funds.
What has so far happened?
What has so far happened? There's a question. I think it is time we should strive for intentionality in very many spheres of resource allocation, of management, of leadership. There is a lot of mismanagement on the 3 dimensions of power, stroke leadership, of resource allocation, and of implementation of these projects that are being funded by these resources that are given to us. So Uganda has not achieved.
Okay. Why I asked that particular question? It's because when you see the World Bank come up, you know IMF might be following there in the corridors. And Winfred, has the IMF kept developing countries in a cycle of poverty? One of the studies said that the agreements that we sign tend to ask for structures, they're conditional, they have certain things we have to follow. Like, as though if I go to the bank, all I need you to tell me is pay your debt on this day. Failure to pay is this: don't give me rules and come and poke your nose in what I'm doing with your loan, as long as I'm able to pay it back. So has the IMF kept developing countries in a cycle of poverty?
I'll answer it in I think Uganda has kept itself in the cycle of poverty. That is what I think.
Our leaders have
Sorry, thank you for the correction. Some of our leaders, let me not bracket all of them. Some of our leaders have kept us in poverty, because I can't. We've let's really acknowledge that there's great improvement. There is great improvement. Right now, around the trade sector, I think 40% are women. Very many women are now contributing.
47%.
Where were we before that? So the development is there. But again, as they give us money, it's like taking a goat to the what?
To the well.
To the bush to eat the grass. You take it, leave it there. The grass is there. It has to eat or not to eat.
Yes.
You get it? So they give us the money. Do they implement? Do they implement for us?
No.
Do they allocate for us?
No.
But they give us conditionals.
Do they give us those conditions before or after?
Before.
Now we go back to what the Arab countries are doing different.
Yeah.
It is now our officials, the government officials, to first go and maybe learn from those who
benchmark.
They have to learn from Arab countries. If the conditions are given before, which means we accept the conditions, whether favorable or not favorable. And if they're not favorable, why do we accept unfavorable conditions? Is it because for us as the officials, as the representatives, our main focus is not about developing the country, but getting this money and we steal it? Because most of the time we need to also think about the motive of the person on the front line.
On that negotiation.
On the table. Because we could be there on the table, yet we are just being served to be eaten as Ugandans. So we Ugandans, our officials have kept us in poverty, because yes, they give us the money, we present the budget, what we are going to use the money for. It is us who come up with that budget, right? It is us who show where we need to be, where the improvement is going to. We need the improvement. It is us who show where we're going to invest the money. The conditions are there before. Now we ask our government, why do they sign to? Why do they accept unfavorable conditions? Because we are
apparently
poor.
The interest rates are low.
And then later they say the interest rates are high. Yes, I understand that we are poor and we feel we can't do away with these loans. Before now, where the governments, like the sustainability of the government, was it on loans? There's somewhere, I think, we're on a roundabout. We are just moving on that vicious cycle, that roundabout of poverty. But before we go to that circle, what went wrong? We need to go back on the drawing board. As we say that the Western countries have kept us in poverty, we still have to go and check ourselves. To me, I feel we have kept ourselves in poverty because of the improvement I'm seeing, the gradual, however small it is. Yes, when you go back, if they tell us about, okay, the Western countries came and they saw what we had, they blinded our eyes, they stole us. But again, we are seeing it even here in Uganda.
But Winfred, for me, I want to say, yes, we are saying these things, but there's also what economic injustice is systematic.
Yeah.
This our government go to borrow money. We borrow in fixed foreign exchange, $1, pound, euros. But remember, here we are collecting taxes in what?
In shillings.
In shillings, and then we are paying them back in what?
In dollars.
Before they steal us, that is why I'm saying let's first go back to, as you've said it yourself.
Yes.
The problems are structural. Before we look at the structures outside Uganda, have we looked at the structures that are impacting us economically within? Structural economic problems stem from our norms and cultures. Very many women have not been owning property.
Yeah.
You know, they have not been owning property.
Even
where does it stem from?
Yeah.
Is it from the structures of IMF
No.
or World Bank?
No.
It is from the structures of Uganda.
Yeah.
We have seen very many gender equality in Uganda.
Yeah.
You get it? Let's just look at now the example, because most of us have been in the wave of we were in the wave of COVID-19. Yes, let's not talk about those structures, but we saw what it brought out. Sexual violations. Who are more affected?
The women.
The women.
And it affects
And
productivity.
the structures in Uganda, do they even favor the victims? Yes, they do to some extent. When the perpetrator is not, we all know.
Yeah.
Let me give an example of northern Uganda, because it's the poorest region in Uganda. How has it developed? And when the government got to know about the gold there, who is earning from that gold? Who is enjoying?
The government.
I don't know. I don't know. I know that they told us they discovered very many minerals in Karamoja. But of recent, we have seen people of Karamoja dying of what?
Famine and hunger.
What structures are hindering us within here to develop economically? I am not saying that the structures of the World Bank or IMF are keeping us in poverty. But I am saying, because we went to borrow and signed, either with excitement, either we wanted to steal the money as the representatives, and we didn't mind about the structures that are going to hinder the development. We can't bring money. It's like bringing money to a blind person. And you're like, have this money, use it. The person is not even seeing the money you're giving them. How is he going to develop it when they can't even steal? They are blind. They can't even move. You've binded their hands and legs. They can't even move. You get? So how are they going to? So our structures are already binding us as a country.
Which are colonial structures that we got. It goes back to the Western colonized.
Until even if that little contribution from us, let's start from cleaning our house. That is where I say, what are the Arabs doing differently?
Yeah.
Can we learn from
they
them?
colonized?
You said no?
No, I said I
Because
don't know.
let me tell you, and I remember last time we told the president that there are things that happened long before we were born.
Yeah.
Because you see, 63, they were entering the World Bank. I wasn't even born. Some of these things we got from the colonizer. Now what you're giving us is the responsibility to dismantle the structure that the colonizer
had
gave us.
created.
But remember, this structure was benefiting the colonizer.
Before
Even when he left under neocolonialism.
My question is, before the structures of the colonizers, are you telling me there were no structures?
There was barter trade.
Yeah, and slave trade.
But again, who was being traded?
Before slave trade, there was barter trade.
Yeah.
My question here is, who was being traded? Women, girls, were being traded.
Yeah.
You know, women were not given any. Women were taken as property. You get it?
I want to disagree with that, because we are moving with what the colonizer gave us and wrote our history for us. But we had a good history. We had matriarchal societies.
Yeah.
Yes, we are reading the history, how you used to behave. Because I'm seeing some of these things and how women are still being treated. It was the British way of living.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And where did it go wrong? And how did we get tapped into that for the colonizer?
Because right now we just went on with independence and just carried on with the structure, which
that is my question of the intention of the person on the table. What are the intentions of the people representing us at that point? What was the intention of the person?
But when we also need to know that when we say Western bullying, we need to know that when countries refuse, they are punished.
Yeah.
They are punished. So somebody decides, oh, why? Let me stay in my kapawa and also not get punished. We have to acknowledge the fact that there is influence and meddling. And what the African countries are saying right now, we want our sovereignty. We're tired of you poking your nose in our business. Because when you poke your nose in our business, you affect trade. You affect the way we relate with each other. And we are saying we are taking back our power. And the Western world is saying,
That is why I'm supporting our president, where he said that let us put a hold on borrowing.
Actually, he says there are other resources where we can borrow from. And here is what we are going to discuss.
So he's now speaking.
Where can we borrow from? The African Development Bank. We have the Islamic banking. The unfortunate thing about China is that for it will tell you we are going to give you, but we are going to come and construct ourselves and then you pay us. But these guys, the Western guys, they were giving us cash, which was helping us even employ our own people. The challenge with us, we were eating the money.
We are looking at, they were giving us money, maybe, but we are not looking at what was there, what was in there for them. But I think we didn't. That is why now we are like, they are bringing in their values now.
There were loans. These were loans of I have come to borrow from you.
Even loans
and I'm going
have
to pay
conditions.
Back with interest.
Let me just give you an example of here. Which bank here in Uganda? Let's just look at the banks within Uganda. Let's look at Centenary Bank. When you go there to borrow and you enter right now that I want a loan, will they just give you a loan? Mama, you want a loan? Okay. How much do you want?
No.
Please have the man and walk out and go.
No.
You bring your maybe land title. You show that you've been working for some time.
It is the same thing, because us, the rural people, borrow from these banks, and our conditions we have tried to manage and fulfill. We don't know the conditions.
But you see, with these banks, Winnie, what they don't do is come and start poking their nose in your business and say, Winnie, we saw you working with Helena, so we are not going to lend you again. Casta, you give them their command.
That is their value. That is what I asked in the beginning. That was just an example, and I gave you an example that if you go and borrow their money, do they just give you money, or they take you through?
They take you through.
You get? We have seen cases where even clients stand up and say that they are taking my property, but this I didn't sign to it. We have seen very many banks, and there are things they hide
from you.
Did we also fall a trap of that before, but again signed on a contract? You know? That is why I said, were we so miserable when we are getting money from World Bank and we didn't get to know about those other conditions?
And where are these agreements?
You get
these agreements?
Yeah,
I'm not saying World Bank is doing the right thing. My question is, okay, now we don't have what to do. But again, what was there? Many times when we don't critically think or deeply think about what got us into a problem, we move with the bandwagon of World Bank is promoting homosexuality. They are not giving us money because we have signed AHA. But again, why are they bringing it up now? When we are signing, is there something with our government signed to
that we have no idea?
We don't have idea on as citizens. Let's not be just blindfolded and we go with that.
But I thought all the articles are for all the members, because we are a member of the World Bank. But for me now, I think we have to move from that discussion and see, where are we going to borrow from?
Our president told us,
no.
Domestic borrowing.
That is why I love my president so much. Our president told us we should now stop, we don't look at borrowing. We are going to cut the costs. Our president is going to help, and they cut costs. And our president told us in 2025, our oil is going to give us.
So we suffer for 4 years.
Yeah, we are not going to suffer. Our president said they are going to cut
the budget.
And I think, yes, our president is very strategic. I think he's going to also consider which sectors, health sector, education sector, where not to touch. I believe our president is not going to touch those crucial, And again, remember, we have this time of the projects already running. You get? So let's first strategize from there before running, because we already have a big debt.
But you see...
But we've been paying our money.
Yes, we are still going to pay.
But you see, as you talked about the allocation of re-strategizing and seeing how to allocate funds in those possible, projects, ministries, it is so disturbing to me that even when during the budget reading, you would see that there are some spheres of life that affect women or girls that are not, looked at, and that are not really appropriately budgeted for. For example, the health. You see? So it still disturbs me that even when you're saying the president has said that we are going to cut the budget, isn't it possible that anything can happen to, those ministries that we think, or those projects that we think are supposed to be pushing for the livelihood, for the sustainability of women and girls, the youth? Don't you think anything can happen there?
That is why I'm telling us and urging every citizen, especially women, especially the vulnerable groups. As much as I'm saying our president has said, we need to look at who is going to be sacrificed.
Yeah, that's exactly
what I told you. The president.
That is why I told you that when they were introducing AHA, we went with the wave. When they told us they're recruiting our children. But we forgot that these people are hiding, are looking for something that can take us away from holding them accountable. You get? So where are we now? I've been putting some questions just to show us that where we came from. And where were we before? Who are the people being sacrificed in everything? Women, young people, yes, disabled persons. Which means we are still, because every time when there is some suffering, there is supposed to be a
sacrificial lamb. And that is
so now which lamb? As the president is saying that we are going to cap the budget. We all have to open our eyes and now think
which lamb?
deeply.
Which lamb
is about to get affected by this budget cuts?
We need to stop. I urge you, us, and especially women, we need to stop. We need to stop getting ourselves involved in crowd thinking. Just crowd thinking like that, when it's not strategic. When they were starting the AHA discussion, personally, I was in some discussion, and my question was and is still, we have had all these examples of people being recruited, women, young girls, or young men being recruited, and schools were mentioned, but every researcher has statistics. You get? Every research has evidence. With the HAHA bill coming in, we had to have a deeper, I think we didn't give this a deeper time of thinking, and as much as we needed maybe the country needed the AHA bill, was there enough time to evaluate all the corners, to close all the gaps? Was the time enough?
Well, the president signed it, and I believe by that time he had seen that it had.
Yet even after signing, he said that, you remember the statement he made at Chankwan, saying that, if you people made me sign about asking landlords to now pop their nose into what people are doing in their bedrooms, to have employee now he was like bringing out points that I was made to sign things that, to some extent, the statement he made was now contradicting what he signed.
But well, it's done, it's done. It's done, it's done. Now we look at, now the World Bank has taken its decision. There is nothing we can do about it. But still, also the World Bank Board of Directors can reverse that decision after evaluation. So as we wait for them to evaluate, or if they evaluate or not, we also need to be self-sustaining.
Yes.
We can't keep saying, okay, we'll borrow from. If these people we are borrowing from have started telling us, you know what, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it's time for us to sit with ourselves and say, okay, this is not what we want for our country.
When a man starts beating you, when a man starts beating you and making you sleep out, you need to start, as you're sleeping out there, you don't have to sleep. You need to stay awake
You start
and thinking about, last time this man beat me, last time yansuza mudiro, last time he made me sleep down, not on the bed, the other day he made me sleep in the sitting room, today he has made me sleep outside the house. So you start thinking strategically. So the government now has to think strategically. As the government is thinking, we as citizens have to also help our governments think strategically.
Yes.
How are we going to help our different groups? How are we going to stay focused, or even don't lose the projects that have been funded? How can we still run this project we've been already running?
Yeah.
Yes. Very many women now have acquired loans, have acquired property through loans without what? Without collateral. Yes, or minimal collateral. How are we going even to start sustaining our businesses? If I had already borrowed money and I already have rentals, I already have what am I now going to do better? And again, are we also, like how she said, the ministers, the cabinet, do we still need that big house? What is it doing for us? Yeah.
Thank you so much. It is a big conversation that would have the whole entire day, because it came at the time when I don't think we expected it to come. But on our side of citizens, I think it's time now that you're going to produce a lot, because we have now to look for export, we have now to engage more in trade within the East African community. So if you have indigenous seeds, please produce a lot of coffee, please produce a lot of grains, bring back the granaries, and those thieves that are in the villages should stop disturbing women. Bring back the granaries to store, because now we have to prepare for food security. You know, the president said we are going to war, but what he did not talk about is it's an economic war. So that means that food security is paramount. Please grow as much as you can. For those that still have the rains, and some places they're going to start, we remind our government and Ministry of Finance to help us with budget cuts in terms of administrative costs, you know, cutting the number of cars, cutting the number of office things they are buying. basically living within our means, and also dealing with the issue of corruption, dealing with having physical discipline, renegotiating some of these projects that are still on and that have not yet even
financial
started.
discipline.
Yes, financial discipline. But we can also still now do the East African trade. We can do the African free continental trade. But we can also sit down and ask that there are things that are made cheaper and accessibility for women that are in production. But we also need to sit down. We say, okay, can we sit down with the African Development Bank, the Islamic Bank? Can we go back to maybe China and ask for simpler rates if we are to borrow? Because you can't be there and you don't have a loan. Loans help develop and also help you not use your money. And in terms of taxes, those people that are on tax holidays, man, they start paying their taxes, and not just coming after the individuals, but can we have government URA go for these big companies and they start paying their taxes, so that we can be able to to be able to collect more finances. And we hope that the board of the World Bank can sit down and say the variety of countries and discuss these issues once more. And until next time, I'm Turyatunga Rebecca Juna. Bye.